All right, let's head back to 1990s Haryana. Now, this story, it kicks off just like a classic ghost tale. You've got the isolated farmhouse, the strange noises, a caretaker who's absolutely terrified. But here's the thing. The real horror in this story isn't some ghost. Oh no, it's something much, much more human, and honestly, way more terrifying. And that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? The calamity we're really talking about here is greed. This story is just a perfect, chilling example of how greed can take things like loyalty, love, even life itself, and just twist them into something you can't even recognize. The so-called ghost in this farmhouse, that's just a symptom. The disease is something much, much worse. So, our story begins with a setup that feels, well, classic. We're talking an isolated farmhouse, a wealthy owner who's barely ever there, and a caretaker who's been around forever who knows every inch of the place. It's literally the perfect stage for a haunting. So let's meet the key players in this drama. First up, we have Raghav Mullik. He's a successful businessman, owns the farmhouse, but spends most of his time in Delhi. Then you've got Raju, his caretaker. And this is really important. Raju is loyal. He's been working for Raghav for 10 years, ever since he was a kid of 20. And rounding out our cast is Mohini, Raghav's wife, who's pretty much a city person through and through. You know, every story has that one little thing that sets everything in motion. And here, it's something so simple, so mundane. A notice from the power company. They've scheduled blackouts every single night, from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. Now, for a farmhouse out in the middle of nowhere, that's not just an inconvenience. It's 6 hours of pure pitch-black darkness and vulnerability. And this is the moment everything pivots. Raghav is away in Mumbai when his phone rings. It's Raju, who is usually calm and collected, but now he sounds frantic. Hearing the words, "I feel like my death is standing right in front of me," from the guy you've trusted for a decade, that's deeply unsettling. It's more than enough to get Raghav on the very next flight back. So, Raghav gets to the farmhouse and finds Raju, just as he sounded on the phone, completely terrified. And the story he tells, it is pure nightmare fuel. We're about to see this farmhouse through Raju's eyes, and believe me, it is not a place you want to be when the sun goes down. So Raju just spills everything to Raghav. He talks about this chilling feeling of not being alone, of some unseen presence literally following him into the house. He describes seeing a face laughing at him from a window, a shadowy figure wandering the fields in the dead of night. And then, the grand finale. He flicks on an emergency light, and right there, standing beside him, is a tall, headless woman. So how does Raghav, our rational, big city businessman, react to this story of supernatural horror? With total disbelief. He just brushes it all off as foolishness. He figures it's just stress or maybe Raju's imagination running wild. He basically tells him to stop being a kid and go to sleep, completely missing the sheer terror that has taken hold of his caretaker. Well, Raghav's skepticism, that doesn't last very long at all. That same night, his own nightmare begins. It starts at 8:30 p.m. He hears glass shatter, catches a glimpse of a figure running from the hall. Then, right on schedule at 9 p.m., boom, the power cuts out. He sprints to the stable to check on Raju, but he's vanished, gone. In a total panic, Raghav realizes the worst thing imaginable. His car keys are locked inside that haunted house. He has no choice but to go back in, and that's when he confronts a figure in the kitchen. The shock, it's just too much for his known heart condition, and he collapses. Raghav comes 2 hours later, feeling dizzy, confused, but as he starts to get his bearings, he begins piecing things together. Something about this haunting, it feels off. It's too perfect, almost theatrical. So the really important question isn't, what was that ghost? It's, was it a ghost at all, or was it something else entirely? And here we go. This is the exact moment our ghost story takes a hard left turn and becomes a full-blown psychological thriller. The mask is about to be ripped off, and what's underneath is way more chilling than any ghost. The truth snaps into focus in one terrifying moment. That figure in the kitchen, it was Raju. His loyal caretaker, Raju. The whole haunting, the headless woman, the laughing face, all of it was a performance. It was a carefully staged play with one goal: to literally scare Raghav to death. But Raju wasn't the director of this play. No. He was just a pawn in a much bigger, much more sinister game. The mastermind, the one pulling all the strings, was none other than Mohini, Raghav's own wife. She knew he had a weak heart. She knew he'd had a heart attack before. This wasn't just about scaring him. It was a cold, calculated murder attempt, using fear as the weapon.
So what was the price for a decade of loyalty? What does it cost to get someone to murder the man who's employed them since they were a teenager? 5%. Mohini had promised Raju a measly 5% of Raghav's huge fortune to see her ugly plan through.
Raghav, having overheard Raju talking to Mohini on the phone, now understands everything. And just like that, the victim becomes the observer. The game is no longer cat and mouse, it's chess. And now, it's Raghav's move. When he finally confronts Raju, Raghav's words are just ice. He completely dismisses him, calling him an insignificant piece on the board, just a pawn being moved around by the queen, Mohini. But then he reminds Raju of the most important rule of the game. It's not over until the king is taken, and the king is still standing. Raghav's counterplan is absolutely ruthless. Step 1, lure Mohini out to the farmhouse by promising to give her a piece of the property. He needs her on his home turf. Then, the masterstroke, he decides to turn her own weapon, Raju, right back against her. This just illustrates the cold, hard math of greed, doesn't it? Raghav shows Raju just how little Mohini really thought of him. She offered 5%, so Raghav, without even blinking, offers him 10% of the very land Raju's standing on. He doesn't appeal to morality or loyalty, he just makes a better offer. He literally buys Raju's allegiance back, but this time it's to use against Mohini. So, Mohini arrives full of arrogance, thinking she's won. She has no idea the trap has been completely reset. She strolls in, ready to claim her prize, even lecturing Raghav about his foolishness. And that's when Raju makes his move, plunging a knife into Mohini and sealing his new bloody deal with Raghav. With his wife bleeding out on the floor, Raghav delivers the final, soul-crushing twist. He just looks at Raju, the man who just became a murderer for 10% of a farmhouse, and tells him, "I sold this place a week ago." Just imagine that for a second. The entire reason for the betrayal, for the murder, for all of this greed, it was for absolutely nothing. Raghav just gets in his car and drives away. The official story that emerges is a messy, sordid tale. A crime of passion, the wife and the caretaker, ending in a murder-suicide. As you can see, the public sees a poor, grieving victim. But the truth? He was the puppet master who orchestrated the entire thing and walked away completely clean. And that really is the ultimate takeaway, isn't it? A little bit of ambition, a little desire, it can be a good thing. It can drive you. But when it becomes all-consuming the way it did for Mohini and Raju, it's not a motivator anymore. It's a poison. It corrupts everything it touches, and in the end, it just leads to ruin and death. For Raju, the price was his life, his soul, everything. All for a piece of property that wasn't even in play. For Mohini, it was her life, gambled away to get something she felt entitled to. And for Raghav, well, he won the game, sure, but you have to wonder what part of his own soul he had to kill to do it. It really makes you ask, what's the true cost of getting everything you want?